Alright, today I'm going to give you guys a summer tour of my garden, and I've changed a lot around here. You can see I've even got a fence around my property now. I'm no longer farming my neighbor's yard, and I got a whole bunch of landscaping things happening here. I've also built some new raised beds here. I'm going to show you guys, I'm going to give you a full tour of what's happening in my garden. And I'm doing some pretty neat stuff that I've experimented with this year. I'm starting to see the benefits of these experiments I've been trying coming out. So we're going to go around to, I'm in my backyard now. I'm going to show you some things I did to my greenhouse, check out my front yard garden, and yeah, talk about some of the stuff that I'm growing and what I've learned this season. Just want to let you guys know too that the membership website is now open. So FromTheField.farm is open for registration for the next 2 weeks, July 5th through July 19th. We're opening it up, taking new members, and there's so much cool new content in the site. I've been on a number of trips. I just came back from a Midwestern US trip. I started in Alberta. I was at an amazing farm there called Man's Organics, and you'll probably see some of those clips in the next couple weeks from these videos. Man's Organics is this super large scale regenerative farm in just outside of Lethbridge, Alberta, and doing some incredible greenhouse work, stuff that I've never seen before, and then some very large scale outdoor farming, you know, irrigation on a central pivot, large scale stuff. And it's cool to see some people scaling up some of these principles, and it's really inspiring to see that it's all very scalable. I visited a hemp farm down in Durango, Colorado called Clutch Hemp Co. That video is going to be amazing. This operation is doing work that I'd never seen before. Really interesting business model. They kind of started vertically integrating down. They basically created a hemp futures company where they're buying commodity hemp futures, buying low, selling high, and then they've vertically integrated where they're doing all their own growing, doing all their own processing. Really incredible operation. From there I went up to what was next. Visited some farms, actually visited the musician you may have heard of, Gregory Alan Isaacoff. He's a market gardener. Did a video with him. That's on From the Field. We'll probably do a YouTube version on here as well. Visited a wicked farm in Nebraska called Robinette Farms, doing some regenerative work, larger scale market garden, tractor based. Then I visited an urban farm in Des Moines, Iowa, Dog Patch Urban Gardens. Jenny Quiner's a student of mine. I've talked about her before. She had some problems with the city of Des Moines trying to force them into some lame regulations, but did a video there at their urban farm. Then I went over to Madison, Wisconsin and checked out Vitruvian Farms. Man, these guys are incredible. I'm starting to see more and more market gardeners scaling up and starting to use tractors, and these guys are a perfect example of it. And I've got a video coming out relatively soon where I'm going to talk about tractor-based farms and what implements people are using and just kind of my thoughts on it. And I'm really thinking that, you know, I for so long have been small scale and mostly talked about small scale farming, but I really think using tractors makes a lot of sense. You know, depending on your context, I'm not saying one person should do one thing or the other, but I think there's a huge potential in that. So anyways, you're going to see some of those videos coming out in the next couple weeks, promoting the website FromTheField.farm. But if you're seeing this video now, the registration is open. The link is in the show notes. You can check it out. I know, just before I start the tour, I just want to talk about some of the things, just some updates basically. I see people reaching out to me a little bit, wondering about why I've disabled the comments on my YouTube channel, and I have to say I actually like not having the comments on there. Not because I don't want to hear from people, it's mostly because comments, and I felt this way since I'm just going to get into a better light here. I felt this way since I've got off social media. Like, I've deleted Facebook a while ago. It's been 8 or 10 months since I've been on Facebook, and I don't even use Instagram anymore. And I actually love my life without social media. I find it super toxic and a huge waste of time. And all the time that I used to spend on social media, I spend with my family now. So it's been total win. And that's really, 5 to 10 hours a week I've given back to my family and gone off social media. And I find the one thing with the comments is, I know there's some great people out there that have good things to say, but there's also a good number of people that have nothing good to say. And what I don't like about the commenting system on YouTube is anybody can just show up and say something. And I don't like that, in the sense that in real social interactions, like if you have a party, you have some friends over for a barbecue or something like that, people can't just show up and throw in their 2 cents. People have to have skin in the game. And this one thing that's what I can't stand about social media, is that people can just chime in and say something and they have no skin in the game, because nobody would come up to you in their real life and say, oh, that guy's an idiot, he doesn't know what he's talking about. Nobody says things like that. So what I like about disabling these comments is, it means, well, for one, if somebody has something that they really want me to hear, they can email me. And that level of filter is great, because the idiot who just wants to pop in and make some dumb comment and then blast off doesn't have a platform to do so. So I like that. One is also, I am a fairly sensitive person, in the sense that I really do care what people think about me. And that's probably a bad characteristic. It's too much. And with the comments, when the comments were running on my channel, I was always checking the comments, and it was a big time waste of time. And I find most people who have things to say don't really say them. And I've learned this from just teaching workshops over the years, is that most people that come to my workshops aren't the type of people that leave comments on the channel. So who are they for? And I know, again, there are some good people out there that leave those comments. But again, I've built those comments and that platform into my membership website from the field. So if people want to be engaged in a conversation, I would encourage you to join that site, because the level of content is so much higher than anything you're going to find on YouTube. And there's a community of people in there who are having conversations that are content specific. There's no trolling, there's no leaving lame, pointless comments. It's all people that have a vested interest in the content and the information. So that community does exist, it's just behind the paywall in my site. So if you want to be part of that community, you can check that out. So yeah, I'm gonna keep the comments disabled, because I don't really find they bring value, to be honest. I know that some people really insist on saying things, but if you want to do that, join the website. And yeah, maybe I'll get back to doing live sessions here and there. Probably not going to do it as regularly as I was in the past, and I don't see any point to doing it in the summer, because views are down for YouTube videos, and even on the membership. People are busy in the summer. So I get that. So we won't be doing any live sessions this summer. Maybe we'll wait till the fall. But yeah, let's start the tour of the garden. So this is my backyard. You can see my Pasta Solar greenhouse. It's been there for a long time. I've built some new raised beds. I've built 4 new raised beds. These are 23 feet long, and there's a bit of a space in between. You can see I've got some of my cannabis plants happening here, and I've got them interplanted. Well, they will be interplanted with vegetables. It's some things I'm trying to experiment with. They do grow fairly big. I got a video coming out, I believe tomorrow, which I talk about how to tell a female and male plant apart. I didn't know this for a while, because I start from seed. I don't buy clones. I start straight from seed, and then we manage the whole plant the whole way through its life cycle. But telling the male and female plants are kind of funny, so you'll see a video up tomorrow about that if you're more curious about that kind of thing. But so I've got these beds in here, and what I'm doing right now is I'm building, you can see these kind of things that look like concrete forms around the side, and that's actually just a landscaping trick I'm using, because I'm going to be, this area here is going to be a little playground for my daughter. There's going to be some fruit trees in here. I'm making a little shade structure over there that we can hang out in, and yeah, it's going to change a lot from what it's been with the farm. Check out my compost system. I'm not totally done it, but I went ahead and bought these. I've been using just like, recycled wood pallets forever, and since I'm not this site isn't so utilitarian anymore. It's more about lifestyle. It's for my family. I went and bought these like really cool compost bins, and what they do is the boards come out, so when it comes time to turn the pile, you just pop the boards out. And I like how they're sort of angled, because then you get oxygen in here, but it keeps the pile in. So I bought 2 of these things. They're like $75 a piece or something. I got them from Lee Valley in Kelowna here, and pretty stoked about that compost system. So that's gonna be my double bin system. I'm building here, just gonna start to build it now actually, a little a structure with a roof, and I'm gonna keep wood chips there. There's a mill just like a few blocks from me, a wood mill, and I can just pull a truck up there and get really, really fine wood chips. It's almost like sawdust. So I'm gonna start using that in my compost as my carbon, and I'm gonna keep it dry. That's when I put a roof on it, so it's gonna stay dry, and then I'll mix it in every time I have a load of compost from kitchen scraps. So what's happening with these forms is I'm filling all of this and this and all of this with more of this 1-inch drain rock, and that's going to clean all this up, similar to the front. I use pea gravel in the front, though I don't want pea gravel back here. It's nice in smaller areas like that, but it's kind of hard to walk in. My daughter loves it, but we're going to put the gravel down. That's actually going to bring it up. So I ran a string line in here and leveled all this out, because the ground kind of goes down a bit there, and so I'm going to fill all that level. So I'm bringing in about 12 yards of this stuff. I'm going to spread it all around and fill all this up, and it's going to raise the you can see these beds are kind of raised off, and this will kind of come up to maybe just past that first bolt in there, and that'll make the ground level from each spot. And when I did these beds, it took me a while. I really leveled them, and I did it with stakes in the ground, just kind of like this, putting in stakes, and then I ran string lines all around, made sure they're level, and then I just pounded the stakes in and then moved these boards to the proper level spot. And so you can see it's a little shallower here and a little bit deeper over there on that end. But yeah, so all of this area around here is all going to be filled with this 1-inch drain rock. So coming into the greenhouse, there's not a ton of action in the greenhouse in the summer. I mean, there is, but I try to get more things out into the field in the summer. I still have some stuff in here, tons of cucumbers. I've started multiple successions. I'll probably keep cucumbers going into the winter. But what we did in this greenhouse, we just added, which has made a huge difference in it, and I wish I would have done this from the beginning, is I put in skylights. And they're vented skylights, so they just open up like this. And the beauty is, now I can passively cool this greenhouse way better than ever. You don't hear any fans running, the exhaust isn't running. I can basically just open these things up, and as long as there's some doors open, I'm keeping both side doors open, and I've got this middle door here now too. The heat just pours out. And so it's made a huge difference in the livability of this greenhouse, because in the summer it just got too hot. And in previous years I'd put a shade cloth over the front. But because I have a lot of perennial things in here now, I don't want to put a shade cloth on here and then, slow down their growth and affect their production. So just kind of passively venting it has been the best thing I would have done. I wish I would have done this years ago, and it's made a significant difference. These things cost about they cost $600 each. So I spent $1,800 plus the labor to install these. So it did cost a bit of money, but if I would have done this from the beginning, I might have saved that in energy costs, because it's almost more expensive to cool this thing than it is to heat it. So that's made an awesome difference. And then on the side of my property here, what I'm doing now, it's got this new fence, is I'm gonna build a trellis system, which I've got a new one I'm gonna show you in the front yard. But I've got this thornless blackberry here, I got a goji, I got some more raspberry, and I'm putting in a few other types of berries and some grapes. I'm going to be building this trellis system off this fence, which is basically gonna have these sort of hangers that come out. I'm gonna run a high tension wire all along, 3 wires, that will keep all of this stuff close to the fence but off it, so that we can harvest it and it's not in the way. So coming out into the front yard, this is where I've made a lot of changes and I've totally verticalized my garden. So I've built this huge arbor all around the front yard. This is made of custom fir. It's actually the same wood planks that I used to build my garden beds, but we stained it because we've done a lot of renovations to our house. We put on new siding, and we actually painted our house with it's a product called Y-Shield. It's a product from Germany, and it's a paint that blocks out electromagnetic frequencies. My wife and I kind of went down a rabbit hole a while ago into, and I'll do another video about this whole thing, but we really started looking into how electromagnetic frequencies were affecting our health. And one thing we started doing a while ago is we turn off our Wi-Fi at night. And we noticed that actually made a very significant difference, noticeably right away in our sleep. We were getting better sleep. And then we hired a consultant named Ross Anderson, local guy here, who has been a 30-year naturopathic doctor, and it was an expert in electromagnetic frequencies and the dangers of them. And anyways, we hired him to basically, he had all these instruments for measuring EMF and dirty electricity and everything else around us, and basically said, like, we got a cell tower 2 blocks away from us on top of a building there. And he did all these measurements and said, look, you're getting blasted with a lot of electromagnetic frequencies, which adults aren't as susceptible as young children are. Apparently young children's skulls are thin. Well, that's obvious, right? But they're a lot more susceptible to it. So anyways, what we did, again, I'll do a whole other video on this eventually, is we painted our house black. My neighbors thought I was crazy for a day because they're like, you're painting your house black? And then we covered it with a color afterwards. But we painted this stuff called Y-Shield on, which blocks out an insane amount of EMF. Like he has a reader that measures what are called microwatts per meter squared. And he measured how much we were getting outside by just standing here, and then what we get inside after we painted this stuff. And so check this out. If you're standing on my back deck, we can actually see the cell tower. It's about 2 blocks away as the crow flies. You're getting blasted with about 8,000 microwatts per meter squared, which is considered not safe, especially for long exposure. If you can reduce your exposure, is significant, according to him. Since we painted our house, we also killed our Wi-Fi. We've hardwired all of our internet into our house, which is actually very easy to do, easier than I thought. And now you go inside of our house, you get 5 microwatts per meter squared. So 8,000 microwatts per meter squared to 5 watts per meter squared. It's pretty amazing, and it's made such a difference in our sleep patterns. I can't tell you. Like, I've been a light sleeper for as long as I can remember, and ever since we've done this, plus killed the Wi-Fi, our house is very safe, let's call it, for lack of a better word. I'm getting the best sleep I've ever got in my life. Like, it's crazy. I used to get up at like 5 a.m. all the time, like clockwork. Now I'm sleeping in till like 7. My daughter's sleeping in too, which is amazing. She was always getting up at like 4:30, but she's sleeping in with me. Like her mom gets up, at 6 or something like that, and then Violet and I sleep in till 7. It's amazing. So anyways, that's made a significant difference in our lives. Again, I'll do another video on that. Just thought I'd share it. But for now, let's talk about the garden. So, got this arbor up. We're actually going to do, there's some more finishing we have to do. We have to put some slats along there so that these boards don't bend over time. It's full dimensional lumber, 2-inch by 10-inch. So those run along this way. And then what I've done is I've put tension wire in between every 18 inches and just basic turnbuckles to tighten these up. This is just like a 12 gauge wire. And so I'm starting to form out all of my perennials along with there. I'm taking my thornless blackberries and starting to train them along the wires. And I'm eventually hoping that this will all just be a green wall. And I've kind of realized recently that I shouldn't have planted certain things. Like these hascaps, I regret planting these here. In the fall, when everything goes dormant, I'm going to dig these out and plant them in my backyard. And then I'm just going to put more raspberries in here, because raspberries and actually goji berries are pretty good. They seem to be the best kind of edible wall you can form. Like check out the gojis. They're pretty amazing actually. Once I've started to train them up the wires, they're making a really nice green wall. And the fruit is very easy to access too. I just got to come in here every now and then and take these branches and kind of let them follow up the wire a bit better. But it's really nice. The gojis are a tricky thing to grow because they just kind of flop out over everywhere. But so far they're working really well with the trellising. I'm loving it. So grapes naturally grow well on wires. So I'm training these guys back on here. And I've been really kind of doing a regular pruning schedule with these guys. And I'm going to just start, train these along these wires. But I've learned a lot about grapes over this last season. And basically what I'm doing is every time there's a fruit set, I'm pruning that branch off. So wherever the fruit stops, I cut everything off after that. I've done that to get a nice core base of the plant. And now what I'm doing is anything that comes out afterwards, I'm going to train along these wires. And so I'm hoping that by fall, when I can, prune these back, I'll have a nice woody base that's basically following these wires. And then next year, fruit's just going to come off it and it's going to be that much more productive and easy to access. So another thing I've done in the garden, continuing my trend of verticalization, is I bought these 3 little arbors here. And I'm training up melons and cantaloupes. I got watermelons, cantaloupes, and some muskmelon, and it's going really well. These things grow super well up here, and so what I'm hoping is that these whole things by August or September will just be fully green, and it'll look cool, but it'll also have fruits hanging down. And I'm starting to get some action. You can see some fruits hanging here, and what I gotta do soon is make a little thing to hold these. So I'm gonna, I'll probably cut up some old insect netting or some old shade cloth or something and make a little bra, if you will, to hold these up, because if they get too heavy they'll fall off, because these aren't meant to grow vertically. Like they don't naturally climb, they naturally crawl and reroot themselves in the ground. And so every twice a week I come out here and I train them up those arbors, or I did T-posts on these corners. And I kind of wish I would have discovered T-posts years ago, because they're so practical. I bought these 10-foot long T-posts. I have a big post pounder, so I got on a ladder, pounded these down in about 18 inches, 2 feet, and now they're at the same height, you can see, as my arbor. And so this guy here, this is a muskmelon. Oh no, this is a watermelon. And look at this. It's already 10 inches off the top. So what I'm going to do is let that guy start to hang down, and then once he gets a few feet long, I'm just going to bring it over and let it follow this thing. And then that's my hope with all these. I got the same thing here. Here's a cantaloupe. Nice little cantaloupe there. And then this guy's doing the same thing. So I'm training him up, and then he's going to eventually just crawl over there. So I've done it. It's pretty sweet. Like, I've got a lot of fruits on these puppies. The neat thing about this, like what I love about this whole idea with T-posts, is you could essentially have a garden bed like this, right? So I've got this bed of strawberries. What's to stop you from planting this right in the middle of the bed? Like, you could put 1, 2, 3, 4, even 5, 6 T-posts right in the middle of the bed. Grow your squashes or your melons or whatever vining thing you got up and out of the space, whereas if you just were to grow that horizontally, you could never fit all of that into one bed. It'd be impossible. The squash takes over everything. But this way, you're verticalizing it, and you're capturing as much sunlight as possible, and you're eliminating the competition. But, you know, would this work commercially? I don't think so. I don't think it would be worth the effort, because I do spend quite a bit of time. I mean, not a lot, but I come out and I prune, you know, like, so this guy's got a sucker coming off here. I go and I prune that. Like, I'm just basically trying to force these up. Similar to managing cucumbers in a greenhouse, actually. So I'm coming out every couple days and managing this, but I've got some really nice fruits hanging on these things. And I got a friend down in the Soyuz, or Oliver, BC, who's an expert melon grower, and he's telling me if you can get 3 melons of fruit, you're like golden. That's a really good yield. And I'm already seeing that. Like, I've got some on a lot of these, there's 2 really good ones, and then there's a 3rd one forming up. So I'm hoping I can get like even 4 fruits per plant, and then I'll be stoked, because I've got 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14. I've got 14 of these. So, you know, if I can get 30 melons, I'll be stoked. My celery is coming along really, really good. We're gonna start juicing this puppy. I was thinking about doing a fall crop, but I don't think I'm going to bother now, because this is like a full bed of celery. You guys would have saw a video in April, I think it was April, where I was transplanting this out with the paper pot, and it was really slow to start. That was way too early to plant this crop. I would have been far better off leaving it in the plugs until mid-May and planting it then. But either way, we got some really nice stalks coming along here, and we're big into juicing, so we're gonna start juicing this celery regularly. I had a little tough time with my carrots this year. This is my first planting of carrots, and it's like spotty, very, very spotty. And the one I put in the greenhouse didn't do as well either. I don't know what it is with my carrots this year, but I will have some soon. So once I start getting like carrots, celery, and beets, then we start juicing all the time. I had a crop of earlier greens in here. I've now turned that over, and I've planted another crop of carrots in here. They haven't popped up. I just planted those about a week ago, so they haven't come up yet. But this Salinova's past its prime. I've got more in the back that I planted as another succession, so I'll probably get a couple more salads out of this and then pull that out. Strawberries have been crazy. We've been picking an insane amount of strawberries. All these berries too. Actually, our raspberries are unbelievable. But we've got lots of berries. We've been freezing them constantly, so that's been going really well. I got some peas here too. I should have tied these better on this thing, but yeah, we're picking them. These are some currants. I think these are actually a loganberry, but these ones are doing pretty well. They're a little bit bitter, but they're kind of sour actually. I like them. They're almost like those sour candies you'd get as a kid. And then I got these tiny little red currants. My daughter loves these. Got a 3rd succession of spinach happening here. That'll probably be my last planting of spinach until September, because we're gonna get into hot weather here soon. Broccolinis coming along well. They're starting to flower though, so that kind of indicates that it's time for these to move on to the next thing. And we're getting some aphid pressure in there, which is also beginning to happen a little bit in the kale, but it's not nearly as bad as if I was doing kale commercially. You know, if I had a whole bed of kale, the pressure would be a lot worse. I find in a gardening context, it's so much easier to manage pest pressure here and there in little spots and just manage it. And so I can kind of push my kale a little bit further into summer than I normally would with commercial production. Also, I'm using a product called Safers. It's a Safer soap, they call it. And I spray that on there, and it kind of screws the aphids up enough that I can keep managing and keep the crop going. We've done that on the broccolinis as well, but it's getting to a point in here you can kind of see it's getting kind of gnarly in there with aphids, so we'll probably go through and pick the last of what we can here and then pull these out and put something else in this bed for the rest of the summer. These flowers, you might be wondering, are my leeks from last winter, and I just left them in there because bees love them. You can see a little bee in there, and they look really beautiful. And I'm actually going to try to save some of the leek seed and see how that goes. Let them fully shatter and then dry out that seed. And we've got here my onion crop from this spring. It's doing very well. Starting to bulb up a little bit there. So that is the tour of my front yard garden, you guys, and I hope you're having a great summer. Remember, From the Field is open now until July 19th, so if you want to get into that club and become a member and be in the community in there, there's tons of good content in there now. I mean, I've been posting almost 2 hours of content every single Friday since January 1st or January 5th or whatever we launched it. So we got a lot more content in there. I will probably, after this year, raise the price of it too, because I know the value's there. One thing I want to just say about the site, because some people email me asking me, or they expect that it's an online course. It's not an online course. It's different than that. It's basically me posting videos that are all interviews with other farmers. Sometimes some of the videos are just me delivering some kind of content, but for the most part, it's other farmers. So I'm visiting growers all over the US and Canada. I'm constantly going on trips. And if I was just trying to post that kind of stuff to YouTube, it wouldn't make sense economically. For one, you can't get views for long form content, so you can't make money from it. And another is, well, the money that you get from YouTube can't pay for you to get enough plane or drive 6 hours to interview some expert. But because this is a paywall and people are paying me to create content, I can. So the economics and the game of it totally change. Whereas if I just kept posting to YouTube, I would have to be focusing on short form clickbaity type videos to get views to fund the creation of content. So totally different platform. I'm loving it. It's just so much different than what I do on YouTube. There's no haters in there, right? That for a content creator, maybe this is something that people might have a hard time understanding, but for a content creator, it sucks when you have to go scan through comments and you see people that just show up and say dumb stuff. I'm sick of it. So I've deleted that from my lifestyle, and I think it's making my content better as a result. But needless to say, you guys, I hope to see some of you in there. It's open till July 19th, and hope you enjoyed this one. We'll see you in the next video.